Winter can be tough. Cold weather, dry air, and seasonal sniffles. That's why I trust Vicks, a brand with over 125 years of reliable relief. Did you know that low humidity during winter, below 40%, can lead to coughing, congestion, and dry, itchy skin? Vicks is the only humidifier brand offering a powerful 1-2-3 combination: a cough suppressant, menthol vapors, and hydrating mist for fast, effective relief. No wonder it's the #1 brand recommended by pediatricians and home to one of the world's most recognizable scents. I love my Vicks Cool Relief Humidifier. It's easy to use with a large tank, rotating nozzle, and filter-free cool mist. Paired with VapoSteam and VapoPads, it turns my space into a soothing sanctuary, easing my cough and congestion while adding moisture to dry winter air. And right now, you can get 20% off of the Vicks Cool Relief Humidifier on Amazon. Just search Vicks VUL600 Cool Relief Humidifier and click on the coupon. Don't wait. This is your winter essential.
Dating helped me discover who I was again. And coming from a narcissistic relationship, I really lost myself as you guide people with. It's like you really can completely lose who you are. I had no idea who I was anymore. And dating really helped me. I know it sounds funny. It really helped me figure out who I was and what I liked and how would I describe myself, and telling my story in a different way to different people, and also just figuring out what type of person I really wanted to be with the next time around.
Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your Divorce Survival Guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back. And now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact. Hey everyone, welcome back. Big news. This week is the 7th birthday of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. And I just want to give a little bit of gratitude and appreciation for all of you guys for listening. If you're new here, welcome. I think this is episode 309. So there are a lot of episodes for you to catch up on. Don't stress about it. But if you're new here, welcome. We've been doing this for 7 years. I can't believe it's 7 years. That's crazy. And we've had such incredible conversations. I have had the honor of interviewing some pretty spectacular humans, wonderful specialists and experts in so many areas that have really guided and helped all of you to get to either where you have gotten to or where you're going. So again, from the bottom of my heart, just such deep gratitude and appreciation, not just for listening to my podcast, but entrusting me and my work with your divorce journey. It is so humbling and it is such an honor, truly. So thank you. And now to today's episode. Today I have with me Alyssa Dineen. She is the founder of Style My Profile. She has joined me to talk about the ins and outs of online dating after divorce. Alyssa is also a survivor. She has been divorced and went through her own journey from after leaving an abusive marriage to finding love. She was also a member of my big Facebook group, if you remember that. Apparently, Alyssa says that, my work and this podcast and that group really helped her get to the other side. So I love it when I hear from people that are on the other side and they say like, wow, your work helped me get here. So wow, just such an honor. And so now Alyssa is an expert in how to use the dating apps, how to craft a compelling profile. She started out as a stylist, so definitely the outfits and the looks and everything. Anyway, it's such a great conversation. We're going to be talking about how she found love after leaving her abusive marriage. And she also shares with us key strategies that she uses with her clients to help them date with intention. So if you're ready, or if you think you might be ready at some point, this is a must listen. So here is my conversation with Alyssa Dineen. Alyssa, welcome. I'm so happy to talk to you today.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
If you wouldn't mind, I would love to start with a little, just your background. You have been through what many of my listeners are going through, and I think that helps ground you in this world. Do you mind giving us a little of that background story?
I got divorced or separated about 10 years ago, divorced about 8 years ago. And I jumped right in myself into dating. I was one of those people that I was like, I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm doing this. We'll just make this better. Let's go.
Yeah. Right.
Same.
I jumped right in, and there was a lot of learning curve, right? It's like, there's a lot to learn. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was a stylist, so I generally knew what to wear in my photos and what to kind of post there. But I didn't really know what to write. I didn't know how to message with people. There was a huge learning curve. After 2.5 years, I went on many, many, many dates, and I met my partner, and we're still together. It's been 8 years. He's also divorced, and we were just talking about how you can really feel lost on there being a divorced person, new to online dating. Many of your friends don't do it or have never, they're married, they've never done it. There's no one really to turn to. So there was a lot of confusion, and I felt like there was a lot of people that really clearly, at least from my perspective, looking at men's profiles, I could tell that people really needed help, guiding them on what to write on there and what to put up for pictures. So I came up with the idea of just to kind of help people with their photos and what to wear and kind of feel confident getting out there, feel good about themselves, putting themselves out there. And then it really evolved into, full-blown date coaching, because as you know, you can put up a great profile, but then you really need to have guidance on the other things as well. So yeah, that was 7 years ago. And so I've been doing this for actually about 7.5 years. And I love it. I feel like what I really love about it is that I feel like I'm giving everybody else the advice that I wish I had when I was going through it myself. And it really does kind of fast forward through all the questions that maybe people would have. And it would take months really to kind of navigate through and then learn kind of how to message and how to do this and that, all the different things. And I can just kind of fast forward that for people, and they can just jump right in and feel confident about their profile.
I love that. Because it is, right? It's like, that's good. What I do for divorce, right? It's like you've never been divorced before. So, or maybe you have, but you've never divorced this person, or maybe you've never been divorced with kids. And so what I do is sort of, right, we kind of shortcut. I've basically heard all the stories and understand the process, right? And so same thing for you with dating, right? I mean, I think it's anything that anybody does professionally, right? It's like, oh, I know this world. You don't know this world. Let me guide you along the way.
Exactly. Yes. So true.
And if it's okay, you have also told me offline that you were in an abusive marriage. And so the reason I want to highlight that is that I want people to understand that it's possible to leave an abusive marriage, go through this process, do the healing work, and like actually find a healthy partnership down the line.
That is a big part of my personal journey. And I do feel like dating helped me discover who I was again. And coming from a narcissistic relationship, I really lost myself, as you guide people with. It's like you really can completely lose who you are. I had no idea who I was anymore. And dating really helped me. I know it sounds funny, but I talk about this a lot, actually. It really helped me figure out who I was and what I liked and how would I describe myself, and just telling my story in a different way to different people. And also just figuring out what type of person I really wanted to be with the next time around. I think you automatically kind of go to what's familiar. So it was a lot of, similar types to my ex, pivoted, and then I was kind of going to the exact opposite from him, and then then I found my way. But yeah, I think it was really useful, honestly, for me, dating different types of people and telling and retelling my story. I mean, there's definitely a lot of trial and error, and I did have a couple of brief relationships, like just a few months before I met my long-term partner. I really had to figure out how to have an argument with somebody, like a real argument, and not, an argument with somebody who is a narcissist. All of those things were, a learning curve, but I did figure it out, and I feel very lucky that I did find a partner that is complete, so supportive and my best friend. And I really never thought that I would find that after getting out of a narcissistic, abusive relationship. I really didn't.
Yeah. I always say that dating is an incredible fertile ground for learning about yourself if you are able to shift your focus onto that, right? Instead of, I always tell the story that my therapist, when I first started dating and I was first divorced, and I was like dating all these guys and I would like say all this stuff and I would go in and talk about it. And she'd be like, you seem to be really focused on whether this person likes you. And she's like, I'm wondering if you are remotely taking your own temperature. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, do you like him? And I was like, no, I don't. She's like, right. Okay. Right. And it was the idea that I was taking their temperature, and what do they think and how do they feel? Right. And I was not taking my own. And if I was able to step back and just observe myself, them, all of the things, then I could really learn a lot about myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is something that I coach on too, is just don't go into each date thinking, are they going to like me? Is how am I going to appear to them? Go into each date thinking, am I going to like this person? Are they going to live up to what I need and my needs?
That's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a big shift.
It is a big shift. And I love the idea of what you said before, which I thought was really, really interesting. It's like how I tell my story. When I tell my story over and over and over again, I start to hear what I'm saying in a different way, or I might adjust it and realize like, oh, I shouldn't share that part of it. Or if I share that part of it, maybe it should be this way. Right. And like you're kind of being this objective observer about your own story.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really see it that way too. Yeah.
I think that's really cool. So, what's your dating coaching philosophy, if you have one?
Yeah, I do. I feel, of course, I'm very focused on having a very strong profile to start, because then I feel like if you have those building blocks, so to speak, then you're starting in a good place. You can really start off on the right foot. So it is really important to have a good profile, a strong profile, and put some thought into it and some effort. And I know that, everyone has a negative view of online dating, especially if you're, literally if you read anything in the media, it's all negative about online dating. So you might be getting into it with a somewhat what of a, I don't know, I'm going to just kind of dip my toe in. And I hear that, but I feel like it really is important to really commit to it and really put some effort into your profile, into what you write, having high quality photos, all of those things. I know it's cliche, but it really, truly is important. And it is something that gets overlooked, honestly. I think people are like, still, oh, I have a couple of photos. I have 2 photos in there. That's fine. People can see what I look like there. No, absolutely not. You really need to tell a story about yourself. So starting from the foundation of having a very good and strong profile. And then from there, I really coach my clients on having a strategy in place and not just blindly swiping right on, dozens of people and kind of matching with a bunch of people and then seeing what happens. You really do need to kind of go into it with a strategy. And mostly it's because of burnout, honestly.
Oh, 100%.
If you don't have a strategy, yeah, you're going to burn out. And that's probably the biggest issue/complaint I get from everybody is I'm burnt out.
You focus your work on divorcing people. Now, do you divorce people? Do you coach men as well?
Yes, I do.
You do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Men and women. I would say the majority, it's probably about 60-40 women to men. I wish I had more men, honestly. I think they could really
Same.
use the help.
Well, that's what I was going to
Um,
say. I was like, all the women I know online have really great profiles. They have really good photos. They actually say something interesting about themselves. But as a consumer on the female side, on a heterosexual female side, I find it not to be the case with men. And so, and my philosophy is you're going to put the same amount of effort into dating me that you're putting into your profile. So, that's an automatic no. If
right,
there's,
right.
but,
Exactly.
but there is this, and this is where my cynicism is going to come in, that I find this to be, it's hard to find men. So I also live in Los Angeles. So, hard to find men who actually put an effort into it.
Well, I think that really is everywhere, honestly. I know everybody thinks it's where they are. I live in a rural area. People don't put effort in. I live in a suburban area. No one puts effort in.
Oh,
I
that's
live in
really
a
interesting.
big city. There's too
Yeah.
much competition. It really is across the board. There's the people that put in effort and there's the people that don't. So, yeah.
The other thing that I have found, this was sort of like the end of my online dating for me. And I would love to be talked out of this. I would love to be, right? Because, I'm not interested in being alone for the rest of my life, but also I'm not interested in the burnout and the demoralization and the being on like a spinning rack on Bumble. For those of you who don't know, Bumble is, do you want to explain? I'll let you explain what Bumble is and how it functions.
Sure. It's so Bumble is one of the swiping apps. And so you swipe right if you like the person, left if you don't. And then if you mutually match, then you can communicate on the app. For heterosexual people, the woman has to reach out first. So it takes away is he going to reach out first or should I? It's just the woman has to, or else the match expires. Yeah. So, and it is one of the most, Hinge and Bumble really are the most popular apps right now. I mean, they have
Yeah.
been for quite a while. Yeah.
So here's what I learned a few years ago from a friend of mine because listen, I've been single for 15 plus years. I started online dating when it was like Match, or there was this other one it was like attached to Salon, it was attached to the New Yorker. It was called, and it was called a different thing for each one. It was more of it was for kind of highbrow, intellectual hipster people. But this is pre-algorithm, right? So I've been doing this a long ass time where you actually just like had to like search and read and become interested. So what I noticed is about a couple years ago, I noticed that I would match with people on Bumble, and then I would go in and say like my little quippy thing that I take from their profile. I always, and you talk about this, and it's really important, right? You say something that is relevant based on what they have put in their profile, and sometimes that can be a heavy lift, right? This is why you want to put interesting things in your profile, right? And then they would disappear. The match would disappear. And it would started happening more and more. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I asked a friend of mine, a guy friend, and he's like, oh yeah, we just sit on the, toilet or whatever. We swipe on everybody. We swipe right on everybody. And then if we match, then we read your profile. And at that point I was like, fuck you, I'm out. Like, because it's already hard enough that listen, the reason that Bumble was created was because Tinder was such a shit show and men are gross. And so it was like a way to protect women that like we get to make the first move. But now they're gaming the system again. And I was just like, oh, so there's more labor and then there's more labor. Oh, and you're gaming the system and you're making me do, because if I matched with you, it's because I've read your fucking profile, not because, right? So
Yes, I
anyway,
know. I know.
that is my rageful rant.
No, and that all of that it's all can be true for sure, and that is still true for the most part. I mean, I do know. I mean, I do work with men, and I do know they do read the profiles. These are the men looking for help, though, so it is a cross section of men that are probably really self-aware and more, I need help, so I'm going to hire someone to help me, and therefore probably more aware of those things. So, But I do know that they do read. There are men that read the profiles. But I hear you about Bumble. I hear you about Bumble. It is another way that it puts it on the woman to do the heavy lifting. I hear you. I did not like Bumble for that reason. However, I know that for a lot of women, they do like to be the one that isn't not in charge, but you can do the first reach out and you're not waiting around for someone to message you like on some other apps.
Right.
So it really is personal preference, but
I had actually written to them and suggested that they limit swipes, like a daily, like you can only swipe on 5 people a day or something like that, right? Because then it would force people to be discerning about who they're swiping on, but they didn't listen to me. So whatever.
No. And actually they do have a limited amount of swipes unless you upgrade and pay, and then you get an unlimited amount of swipes. So now everybody just pays. What the apps are doing now is I think on Hinge and Bumble, it does say, if you've messaged back and forth with someone, it says your turn, which I think is really great. Like, it's a good way to say, oh, okay, now I need to respond. But, and another complaint that I get a lot from both men and women, but mostly women, is the messaging back and forth where the person isn't asking you questions in return. That is a big one that I hear all the time. And really the only thing I can say is you cannot teach someone how to hold a conversation. They either know or they don't. And so you give them maybe one opportunity, you give them one chance to, turn that around. And if they don't, I say unmatch them. And that's because you're only wasting you're only expending your own energy, and it's generally not going to change after a few messages. They're not going to suddenly say, oh, I guess I need to also carry this conversation.
Yeah. So just to be clear, what we're talking about is that you ask a question and then they answer the question.
Yeah.
And then the conversation is over.
And they expect you to keep continuing.
To continue to ask questions, right? Yeah. So the way you carry on a conversation is like, oh, I answer my question and then I ask you a question, right? That's how things keep going. But if you ask a question and then they just answer it, and then like there's dead, then you're like, oh, okay. And then you maybe ask them another question. As you said, you give them another chance, right? You ask them another question and they just answer it. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Exactly. And I do see it happen with women too. Women do sometimes do that as well. So I don't want to put all the blame on men for that one, but I would say generally speaking, yeah. And that's a big one. That's a big frustration, and I think the biggest thing is to feel empowered and say, okay, I'm not going to continue this conversation, and unmatch them and continue a conversation with somebody who is going to have a give and take.
Would you say anything? Do you advise saying anything to them?
I mean, generally, I think if it makes you feel better, great. I think that a lot of people might get defensive, but if you unmatch them, you won't see their defensiveness anyway, and it might make you feel better. And I think actually you can, there are more and more, there is a movement by women who are not tolerating the kind of bad, quote unquote, bad behavior that's kind of become the norm online. And I think a lot of women have just said, I did this too. I don't know if you did this. Maybe it was probably not as bad 15 years ago, but 10 years ago, it was definitely, the sexual innuendos. I just chalked it up to, I guess this is just how it is now. I guess this is modern dating. I guess this is how you just have to kind of overlook those things. And obviously, unless it's something rude, then I would, unmatch them. But even just the small things where that there's an innuendo there. And I just was like, oh, I guess this is just how it is. No, it should not be that way. That is not, no one should be referencing anything sexual until they have met you in person. or preferably after, several dates, but
right. Exactly.
The first time.
Exactly. There's it's fun. My mom's British and she always complains. She's like, oh, American men do not know how to flirt. They just don't know how to flirt without making it gross.
Yeah, that's actually really true. At least I know the Brits that I know, they really do know how to flirt without making it sexual.
Without making you feel really unsafe.
Yes.
Today's episode is sponsored by MIDI Health. Guys, I want to take a minute and talk to you. Real talk. I spent 10 long years battling perimenopause with hot flashes, insomnia, brain fog, mood swings, you name it. It was brutal. And let me tell you, I would have killed for a service like MIDI Health back then. If you're over 40 and dealing with any of this, vaginal dryness, weight changes, or just feeling like you've lost yourself, you don't have to just grin and bear it. The experts at MIDI are menopause specialists, and they get it. They offer safe, FDA-approved solutions that are customized just for you. What's even better? MIDI is covered by major insurance. No memberships, no hidden fees, just real help from people who understand. So ladies, you deserve to feel great. Don't wait. Schedule your virtual visit at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com. Because thriving through menopause is completely possible.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
I also want to say about the messaging and your match queue basically is what it's called is, and I want to reference your point where you said men just swipe right on a ton of people. Everyone's guilty of doing that to some degree, matching with a bunch of people, and then of course some of those conversations are going to fizzle out because your attention is on 10 different messaging conversations rather than 3. So my coaching is really keep your match queue very small. You want maybe 3-4 people max because you really want to focus on those few people. And then if one of those conversations fizzles out, then you maybe add somebody else to your queue, but really trying to keep it minimal so that you're not doing that thing where you just have a list of people and no one's communicating. And if everyone's doing that, that's why there's so much stagnancy on dating apps, is because everyone's having this long list of in their queue, and they're not paying attention to they're not giving anyone enough attention, really. So the purpose of the dating apps is not to be messaging back and forth on the dating app. The purpose is to get to a date and meet in person. I think that gets lost. I think people actually, honestly, I think they forget that, oh, right, I need to cut this conversation as short as possible and just make a date.
Yeah, right. There's a cadence that I think is, again, right, this is something that you kind of figure out over time, but that a good coach can help you not have to figure out over time, that this cadence of like, we send a few messages back and forth. We feel comfortable like, oh, this is working. This sort of, we're riffing. This is cool. Then you move to a phone call or a video call, which you can do inside the apps now for safety. And then you move to a date, right? Like you're just kind of checking boxes. This is like pre-screen. Okay, double pre-screen. Okay, now let's do this, right? Or not. There are people that will keep you chatting in the app and never actually ask you on a date. Don't continue those conversations.
Definitely don't. Yeah. And I think again, if you're new to this, you think, oh, this is maybe just how it is. This person wants to get to know me before they ask me out. You can't get to know someone over messaging. You simply can't. You can get to a point where you know whether you want to try to meet in person, but you can't get to know someone. And I actually strongly advise against that because of the, I call it like the fantasy thing that happens. Like you create this fantasy about a person and it's a fictional version of this person that you haven't met yet. And then ultimately when you meet, it's never what you think it's going to be. And it's always going to be a letdown.
It's always a disappointment. And it's because right, like you said, it's not real. And also I would say that 9 times out of 10, the people that carry on these long, protracted like conversations over a dating app messenger never do ask you out.
Yeah, a lot of times I agree with you. I do also know from working with men that men are also nervous to ask them out too soon They don't want to feel like they're being pushy. And again, these are the men that are actually giving it some thought and don't want to be that way. So they're asking when is the right time. And it is tricky because with some women, they're like, let's just meet, and other women are like, whoa, that you're rushing things.
Yo, slow down. Right. Yeah. I will say if I get that vibe, I will say something like, hey, so do you want to take the relationship to the next level? Like kind of like jokey to be like, hey, if you wanted to ask me out, I would probably say yes.
Yeah,
Or something to just like let them know that like
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a great way to do it. Or, let's continue this conversation in person. Let's see if, either over the phone or in person. Yeah.
There are just sort of like flirty, cute ways to do it that aren't like, are you ever going to ask me out?
Yeah, exactly.
You have on your website, you have a dating app checklist, which I am happy to say that I have almost have 100% on. When I was dating on, I have not had a dating profile in a while, but except for one, but I'll talk to you about it. This is sort of like a great checklist for like what makes a really great profile. Can you talk a little bit about what makes a really good profile, like that someone's going to click on?
Well, as I mentioned, the photos are really having all 6 photos. Most of the apps it requires at least 6 now, and having all 6 and having high quality photos, not just, I found this photo on my phone that I had to crop somebody out and it's sort of grainy and the lighting isn't so good. And all those things. And really you have to, you might not have any photos. You might not. And a lot of divorced people don't have any photos of themselves without their partner, their ex-partner, or their kids. And that's very, very common. And so guess what? You have to find a friend or, hire a local photographer and take some photos, and not just, and if you ask a friend to do it, I recommend getting someone that you feel very comfortable with, of course, but that you ask them like, okay, we need to take a lot of photos, not just like, okay, here's, I took 5 frames of you in this one outfit and we're done. No, changing your outfit, changing location, going outside, moving locations even within your home, or doing it at a restaurant, whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable. But you have to take a lot of photos, and unless you're, you're a professional actor or model, it does take some effort. You got to practice. It takes practice.
Right. Yes, that's right. And so get somebody who would like, it doesn't take a professional photographer. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this.
It really doesn't.
You just get somebody with a really good iPhone or Android, because Androids are have better cameras.
Yeah. And the only reason I say professional photographer is because a lot of people say I don't have anyone that I can ask. And so, great. You can find somebody, and you just have to be really specific. This is for my dating profile. They shouldn't be too posed. They shouldn't look like a headshot. You shouldn't look like a LinkedIn. Like it should feel, And really get used to, for those of you who are new to this, get used to, and I'm sure Kate, you've been doing it. So, you're out with friends, you remember to take photos together, and that's something that I really would, for every time I'd go out with a friend, I'd forget, and I'd come home and I'd be like, shoot, I forgot again.
I look so cute too.
Damn it. So good. I had makeup on. Yeah. So you really have to get into that habit. And
yeah. And like, some action photos and fun things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a great picture from last year of me dancing at a friend's party, and I'm in this like crazy, like woohoo, like I look
awesome.
Kind of insane, but also like I am having the time of my life on the dance floor, and it's like the perfectly framed photo. It's like fabulous.
And that's like a personality shot, right? It's like you need to have the like straightforward smiling to the camera, this is me, but then also personality shots like that. That's a great one. Dancing or doing something goofy, maybe your kid even took a goofy photo of you or something that of course is flattering, but
right.
Goofy.
Unlike
just really telling a little bit of a story about you, right? And like you're basically curating a little 6-picture story of you. What would you want people to know about you in those 6 photos?
I had another one that I used to use, but I think it's too old now. But I loved it. So, it was so great because it got all the comments, right? It was like the thing. And it was just I had burned the taco shells in the toaster oven. And so it was like, we're doing taco night with my best friend and the kids. And so I'm holding the tray of burned taco shells and they are black. And I'm looking at the camera like, like, yay. And the caption I always use is nailed it. It was a great conversation starter because people will be like, what were those? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great example, Kate, because you want something that's going to create some conversation, right? It's like you want people to have an opening to ask that question. What are those? And, it's something like that is perfect, just to get that conversation going.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good one. It's too old now, but it was fun. It was fun while it lasted. I'm sure I can find something
But the
else
dancing
at some point.
shot,
Mhm.
also great. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so you want 6 different photos in various,
Yeah, and high
whatever.
quality, not grainy, not out of focus, not too, good lighting, all of those things. So that's really important. Prompts and bios that are unique to you, and because as you know from doing this, you see the same things over and over again on those bios and prompts. I love to travel. I want to travel more this year. I love red wine with my dinner every night. You start to see the same things over and over again. So keeping that in mind, you want to think of the most unique things about you, or a unique story about you, or, just something clever or funny or a little anecdote, whatever it is, but something that's going to stand out from all of the more sort of mundane, boring profiles. Putting really some effort into your bio and your prompts is really important.
I agree.
In captions as well is a way to get people's attention. Like you said, nailed it. That's a great one. Like that, commenting something on your photo that makes the photo even more interesting.
Right, right. And in terms of like those words, like, you say don't use words like travel, adventure, cooking, sense of humor. I always say like show, don't tell. You don't need to tell me. You don't need to say you love to travel if you've got pictures of yourself kind of all over the world, right? Obviously you like to travel. Don't say that you have a good sense of humor. Make your profile funny.
Yes. And that is a
Right.
big one. Actually, a client just sent me a profile of a man who wrote that in his profile. And she showed me the exchange between them. And it was the most unfunny thing. And she's actually very funny. And it was like falling flat. And she was like, why would he have a sense of humor? And I said, just so you know, everybody thinks they are very funny. Everybody. They really do. I know that from working with hundreds of clients now. Everybody thinks they're funny and they want to say that in their profile. So,
yeah. I once went on the most boring date in the world with a man who was like, let's just meet up and like something about like how you'll never laugh so hard or something, or like he was the most unfunny and in fact deadly boring person I'd ever met. So yeah, so like show, don't tell, right?
or if you say, you want to say that you're really into cooking, say specifically, I love having, shucking oysters and having oyster night with champagne with my friends or whatever. I'm making this up, but something that's going to make it more interesting than just, I love cooking for my friends, just something, a specific meal that you love to make, or create like almost like setting a scene.
And you can do that with your photos too, right? Like if there's photos of you cooking with and for your friends, da-da, there it is. One of the things on your checklist was people comment on things specific to your bio or prompts. They don't just like you and ask how your day is going. If they don't, that's a sign that your bios and prompts aren't giving people enough to go on. Okay, so I want to push back on this because again, being the heterosexual woman that I am, like I think, and I've had friends like Bella or other dating coaches be like, yeah, your profile is great.
I'm sure.
But I'm like,
I'm sure it is.
so why are they not commenting on specific things? Why are they not asking me questions about, obviously unmatched, but like, damn, it can be hard.
Well, and so when even more recently, they weren't When was the last time you
It's
were
been a couple years.
active?
Yeah.
I was, yeah,
A year or two.
because
Yeah.
yeah, that's actually I agree, because I'm sure your profile is great because you're around people that are in this in this world. So I'm sure you get what you need to put up there. That is interesting. And I hear you. It's like, honestly, like a lot of the times those things are also directed more at men than women, because
Right. Right. Hint,
it's like,
hint.
yeah, hint, hint, like make it more interesting so that women have something to go on too,
Yes, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Don't take your pictures from like under your chin, please.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right, guys, so check this out. Have you ever heard of Goldbelly? Okay, so it's this amazing site where you can order the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the country, and they will ship it straight to your door. That's right, these guys will ship you Philly cheesesteaks from Jim's or Pat's in Philly, buffalo wings from the Anchor Bar in Buffalo, and even Kansas City's most legendary barbecue. So if you're looking to host an epic Super Bowl party, go to goldbelly.com and get free shipping and 20% off your first order with promo code GAMEDAY.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you, or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
All right, you've got this great profile. We know how to have this little back and forth conversation now. What about the actual dates? Like, what are some strategies, tips that you can give people for the actual dates themselves? Preparing for the date, being on the date, what are your top tips?
Really, why I started doing this, I'll go back to the very beginning, is to help people figure out their personal style to make them feel more confident getting out there, not just in their profile, of course, but on the actual date. Revamping your look and it just does wonders for your confidence level. It really does. So I think, and I'm mentioning this because I think what's important is that you're wearing something that you feel really good in, and you feel great walking out the door, and you're excited, and you feel maybe a little bit sexy, and you feel, empowered. And I know that's a tall order, but really, I think that a lot of people who are getting out of a marriage, you kind of don't know what that is anymore. Or maybe it's been a long time maybe since college that you felt that way. So just trying to maybe, not that I'm saying run out and go on a shopping spree, but finding just one or two things that you go to a store and you buy one or two things and you're like, this is my date outfit. I call it a date uniform, because when I was dating, I realized I was spending so much time before the date figuring out what to wear. And then I would be more stressed out, and then going on these first dates feeling way more stressed out than I needed to be. So I came up with my first date outfit. And I just literally wore basically that same outfit every time. I may have alternated the top here and there, but I had these great jeans that I felt really good in. And I had these boots that were, comfortable but cute. I've had a couple of blouses that I alternated, and that was my date outfit. And then I never had to think about it. And I knew I'd feel good, and I wouldn't be fussing with anything. I'd be just able to talk to the person and feel good about myself. So I think it really is key to have your first date uniform.
I think that's great. That's great advice, because I do the same thing. I'm like, and I would go through the tortures of the damned to come home and my bed is covered in clothes and then also it would be like a bad date, and then I'd be so fucking pissed. Like, why did I put so much effort into that?
Yes, that's actually another good reason to not expend too much effort. Right. Yeah. I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I'm going to tell it again. There was an episode of The Incredible Hulk that I watched when I was much, much younger, obviously. And I'm talking episode of the TV show back in the 70s. No,
and
I
80s.
remember it.
Right? You remember, you know what I'm talking about. There was, I guess somebody had set him up on a blind date, and they met in the park, and she was wearing like a baseball cap. They were like had a picnic, and it was like a baseball cap, and she was in like athletic wear kind of thing, tracksuit probably, because it was that era. they had a really nice time. And then that night, like he's at home and she knocks on his door and she's in like an evening gown and her hair is all done. And he was like, whoa. And she was like, well, I didn't really want to put all the effort in for the first
really
date.
Funny. That's good. That's good. No, and actually, yeah. And on that note, really, it's like the first date is just it's basically a meet and greet, right? It's like you want to just see if the first date is to judge whether you want to go on a second date. And that is really the way everyone should look at it. You're not trying to decide if they're going to be your next soulmate. It doesn't have to be that yet. So just going into the date, being really curious, like what is this going to, who is this person going to be? What are they going to, maybe they'll become a friend. Maybe I'll set them up with a friend of mine. Who knows, but just going to a date curious and excited to meet someone new and make it brief, an hour or less really. And just decide that date should really just be, do I want to go on another date with this person?
Yes. So save your best, like save your like sexy, beautiful outfit for the second date.
Right. And then when you're going on a second date, and this is something that I hear all the time, well, there is no chemistry, so I'm not going to go on a second date. No, that is not the way to approach this. Having chemistry is not necessarily a good thing. That does not necessarily indicate that it's going to be love forever. So you have to just remember that sometimes it is a slow build and you do need to go on a second date, whether there's chemistry or not, and really the judge is, would I want to be friends with this person? Would I want to set them up with a friend of mine? Would I want to go to a movie with them? That's really it. You're not deciding whether they're your soulmate yet. So getting to the second date, but yeah, maybe if you're somewhat interested, yeah, that's when you do wear your maybe more sexy thing, not on the first date where it's just a kind of a test run, basically.
And to that end, okay, so there's a difference between there not being chemistry and I'm very much not attracted to this person.
Exactly. And so this is where I know I have a lot of pushback on that, where people are like, well, I'm not going to settle for someone I'm not attracted to. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. It's really just, of course, if it's a hard no, you just know absolutely there's just no way. Of course, then don't make a second date. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But it's really just, if there's even a remote possibility, and again, you're attracted to them as a person, as a human being. Obviously, if they say something that's offensive or you don't agree with or whatever it is, then no, then you wouldn't want to see them again.
Right. There's that like, I literally am sort of like physically revolted by this person. Then that's a no. Like the idea that that's going to, it might grow on you. It's like, no, I actually know and it will not.
Yes. And of course. And you do know those. I think it's what I say to people is like, if it is a hard no, then it's a hard no. But if it's a maybe, then I'll try another date.
Yes. And so the first date you think really is just like, it's coffee, it's a glass of wine if you drink.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say. A coffee or a drink.
One.
Yes. One. Yeah. And really you should, what I say to people, because I think especially women have a hard time, if they don't want to say like, well, I got to go now, just say at the very beginning, so excited to meet you. Just so you know, I do have to leave by 6:30. I have to be home to let my dog out or whatever. I have a call that I'm scheduled, something that you have a reason that you need to leave. So you don't feel bad. If it is a definite no, then you can just say like, it was great meeting you. I'm so sorry I have to run to this appointment.
And if it's a yes, like also keep that, right?
Yeah.
Like give yourself the, like, if you're all excited and it's starting to feel romantic and you're like, ooh, and you're starting to feel this feeling, keep that short so that you can then go home and sort of like, whew.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Cause you can get caught up in that. I've heard of that too, where people get really excited on their first date and they're like, 1 hour turned into 5. It was amazing. And then, and that fizzles out. Maybe not, maybe it lasts, but it does fizzle out sometimes. And then you feel like, so it is good to end on a high note. I fully agree with you there.
And those dates for me were always like very alcohol fueled, right? It was always, this was, before I quit drinking, but there was a lot of, it was like the more the more glasses of wine I had, the more amazing this date was. And like, that's not a good barometer for this.
I've been there too.
All right. So before I let you go, what makes it successful? Like, are there common themes, things that you see that make online dating successful for people?
The success stories really, there is a common theme, and it's repeating some of what I just said, which is almost always, okay, I'm thinking of some of the women that are my clients that have met a man that they're, partners with, or at least it's been quite a while. The theme is it's usually someone that they weren't like, oh my God, this guy is so hot on their profile. They were just like, oh, he seems interesting. Oh, he seems nice. Yeah. Okay. I'll give him a chance. So they weren't maybe wowed by them, but they gave them a chance. And that's another thing that I coach around is like going, not giving people that maybe aren't your type a chance and really pushing yourself with your type. And so maybe it's that, maybe they just weren't really, super excited about it. And it was a slow burn. It's almost always that like the first or second date, maybe, I'm not sure. He seems really nice though. I'm going to go out again. And so I've heard it happen with myself. That's how it happened with my partner, actually. It took us 4 dates before it really clicked for us. And everyone at the time was like, how did you even go out on that 4th date? And it's like, well, I knew I really liked him as a person. So that was really what was fueling it. And that's what I hear a lot from my clients too is, okay, maybe it wasn't their 4th date, but I've even heard of their 5th date, then it kind of clicked for them. So really giving people more of a chance than you think you should. I think that's the thing. And think about it. All the people that you were friends with, for example, like in high school or college, when that kind of used to happen, or someone at work, you'd become friends with them and then maybe it turned into something. I think people have forgotten that a lot of times romantic relationships start from a friendship. Keeping in mind that, and again, I'm not saying go out with somebody you're not attracted to and force it. I'm saying it can be a slow burn, and almost all of my success stories are that.
I love that. So Alyssa, you have 2 digital products that you're offering 20% off to our audience, which is really sweet and generous. So can you tell us what they are?
Yeah. So one is, it's called the Mindful Dating 101 course. And that's great for people, especially who are maybe new to all of this. And, we even have one of the modules is, Am I Ready to Date? So I think that's really important. We talk about everything from, putting your profile together, your personal style, feeling how you want to feel around that, to intimacy and sex, just kind of not delving into it, but just kind of talking about it and what is going to make you feel comfortable around that. So that's our course. And then we have something called the DIY Profile Kit. And that's all these downloadables that are really walk you through how to put together a great profile or make over your profile if you already have one. But it's basically like guides and tip sheets and, a fill in the blank bio and that type of thing. So,
oh, that's great. That's great. The links are in the show notes. Use the code DSG20 and you'll get 20% off each of those. Alyssa, thank you so, so much for coming on. This has been a really great conversation. Where can everyone find you?
They can find me on my website, which is stylemyprofilelyc.com, and it has all of my socials and everything there. Amazing. They can book a call with me too. Yeah.
And you don't just work with women in New York, right? I mean, obviously, if you want to work one-on-one.
No, all over. Yeah. I work with people. Yeah. All over the world, actually. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Alyssa, thank you so much. This has been, you've kind of lit my fire. Now I'm like, maybe I'll re-up something and try this one more time.
Good. Well, I'm happy to look at your profile too. So
I will take you up on that. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Alyssa.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.
Hi there, I'm Andrea Owen, self-help author with 19 translations of my books, global keynote speaker, and life coach. My podcast, Make Some Noise, has been serving up self-help in a simple-to-digest way for the last decade. The topics brought in each episode are practical and easy to implement around topics such as working through fears that keep you stuck, different modalities of therapy, managing your negative self-talk, and more. We bring you guest experts, solo episodes, and I even coach listeners on the air around relatable struggles. I also do my best to weave my sense of humor into some heavy topics because, let's face it, life can be pretty hard, and it's so much better when we can have some fun while walking through our challenges. Whether you're seasoned in personal development or just starting out, Make Some Noise podcast will help you become the best version of yourself, the person you're proud of when you look in the mirror and show up in your life. Simply search Make Some Noise with Andrea Owen wherever you listen to your podcasts.